Hey there, history warriors. Did you know that in a nation bled dry by 25 years of civil war, a woman auctioned off the presidential limousines, grounded the state jet, and chopped her own salary to match the average workers just to prove leadership means sacrifice, not splendor? Yeah, that's Ellen Johnson Sirleaf for you, the Iron Lady of Liberia, who didn't inherit power. She forged it in the fires of exile, prison, and plague. Picture this: a country on its knees, its treasury a ghost, its people haunted by ghosts of their own making. But Ellen, she rolled up her sleeves, stared down the debt dragons and corruption kings, and whispered to her shattered homeland, "We're rising." In the next, I'll take you through her unbelievable odyssey. From a battered young bride in Monrovia to Africa's first elected female president, Nobel laureate, and global beacon for women warriors, we'll uncover the gut-wrenching decisions that saved Liberia, the hidden heartaches that nearly broke her, and the what-ifs that still echo. Could one woman's grit rewrite a continent's fate? Stick around. This isn't just history, it's hope with a heartbeat. If you're loving these deep dives into trailblazers who bent the arc of time, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell for the channel. We drop new stories often to fuel your curiosity. Alright, warriors, let's journey back to 1938. Imagine a humid dawn in Monrovia, October 29th, 1938. The Atlantic breeze carries the salty tang of promise as a baby girl enters the world in a modest home on the edge of a city built by freed slaves, dreaming of a new Edom. That's Ellen Johnson, daughter of Jamel Carney Johnson, a Gola man from the rural wilds of Bomi County who clawed his way into Liberia's elite legislature as the first from his indigenous tribe. And her mother, a resilient soul of Crew and German roots, adopted into Americo-Liberian high society after her grandfather fled World War I's shadows. Ellen grew up straddling worlds, the polished parlors of Monrovia's old guard, where descendants of American slaves ruled like plantation lords, and the raw pulse of indigenous Liberia, where poverty bit deep and traditions ran like rivers. But childhood wasn't all lullabies and palm wine. Ellen's father, a trailblazer himself, taught her the sting of prejudice, how he'd changed his surname to Johnson out of fierce loyalty to President Hillary Johnson, Liberia's own black leader in the 1880s. "We fight with our minds first," he'd say, his voice gravelly from late-night debates. Young Ellen soaked it in, her sharp eyes missing nothing. By 17, though, life threw its first curveball, a marriage to James Sirleaf, a promising agriculture student. They wed in 1956, and soon 4 sons arrived: James, Charles, Robert, and Famba, like rapid-fire drumbeats in a storm. What Ellen didn't bargain for was the darkness behind closed doors. James's temper turned volcanic, his fists a brutal rhythm that echoed the very inequalities she'd been raised to defy. Why me? She'd wonder in the quiet hours, nursing bruises while her babies slept, her spirit fracturing like cracked earth in the dry season. It was a secret scar, one she'd carry like a hidden blade, fuel for the fighter she was becoming. In 1961, she walked away, divorcing him and vowing no man, no system would ever cage her again. That choice, it wasn't just personal, it was prophetic. With 4 boys in tow and no safety net, Ellen hustled, bookkeeper by day for an auto shop, homemaker by night, her ledger balancing pennies like a general rationing ammo. But she hungered for more. Education is the great equalizer, her father had drilled into her. And so, With grit as her passport, she boarded a ship to America in 1961, landing in Wisconsin. She earned an associate degree in accounting from Madison Business College, her nights lit by desk lamps and dreams. Picture her there, a black woman from Africa's edge in the Jim Crow 60s, dodging stares, but devouring books. Alpha Kappa, Alpha Sisterhood, her anchor, a whisper of solidarity in a sea of suspicion. By 1970, she'd stormed the University of Colorado Boulder for a bachelor's in economics, then Harvard's Kennedy School for a master's in public administration from 1969 to 1971. Harvard, where kings of policy debated, and Ellen, this single mom from Liberia, held her own. I felt like an imposter at first, she later confessed in her memoir. This child will be great. But then I remembered, imposters don't survive coups or raise empires from scraps. Armed with degrees sharper than any sword, she returned home in 1972, ready to wield them. Liberia called, and Ellen answered. As Assistant Minister of Finance under President William Tolbert, the soft-spoken reformer, steering a ship of state adrift in nepotism's fog, those early years hummed with possibility. Ellen rose to full finance minister by 1979, her voice a clarion in boardrooms. At a Liberian Chamber of Commerce speech that year, she didn't mince words. You're hoarding profits like dragons on gold, bleeding our economy dry. It was electric. Eyewitnesses recall the room gasping, then applauding, as this poised economist in a crisp suit dismantled corporate greed with surgical precision. Tolbert beamed. The people whispered of a new dawn. But whispers turn to thunder when power shifts, and in April 1980, thunder struck. It started with rice, a harmless protest over skyrocketing prices that Tolbert ignored until it boiled over into the streets. On April 14, 1980, Master Sergeant Samuel Doe and his ragtag soldiers stormed the executive mansion, guns blazing. Tolbert was dragged out, tried in a sham court, and executed by firing squad on a beach at dawn, his blood staining the sand like a crimson prophecy. Liberia's old guard crumbled. A brutal new era dawned under Doe, the uneducated sergeant who crowned himself the people's savior, but ruled like a warlord in fatigues. Ellen, she survived the purge, one of only 4 ministers spared, her Harvard polish perhaps a shield against the machetes. Doe offered her the presidency of the Liberian Bank for Development and Investment, a gilded cage. She took it, hoping to steer from within, but illusions shatter fast. By November 1980, after publicly slamming Doe's economic bungling, this regime is a sinking ship, and you're drilling more holes. She fled to the U.S., heart pounding, leaving her sons behind in the care of relatives. Exile bit deep. In New York, Ellen juggled Citibank gigs and Equator Bank stints, her remittances home a lifeline amid Doe's reign of terror. Ethnic purges, rigged elections, Liberia festered, yet she couldn't stay away. In 1985, democracy's siren song lured her back. Teaming with Jackson Doe, no relation to the tyrant on the Liberian Action Party ticket for vice president, she campaigned like a storm, promising fiscal sanity and indigenous pride. Crowds swelled, hope flickered, but Doe struck back. At a rally, Ellen's words flew hot. This government is a cancer on our soul. Sedition, they called it. House arrest first, then a 10-year prison sentence in Monrovia's dank cells. Eyewitnesses from the trial, fellow dissidents, like lawyer Tipita, recall her standing tall, chin up, as guards chained her. They thought bars would silence me, she reflected later. But in that gloom, I plotted comebacks, international outcry. From Amnesty International to U.S. senators, rattled the regime. Pardoned in September 1985, she emerged gaunt but unbroken, only to face election fraud that stole her Senate seat in Montserrado County. The hits kept coming. November 1985, an attempted coup, rearrested, this time for plotting. 7 months in a 6B8 cell, the air thick with despair, rats her only companions. Imagine it, Ellen, the economist queen, scratching economic models on the floor with a shard of soap, whispering to shadows, "One day, I'll balance this nation's books and yours." Released in July 1986, through back-channel pleas, she slipped into exile again. This time to Nairobi and Abidjan, her sons scattered like seeds in wind, some studying abroad, others navigating Liberia's minefield. From afar, she watched hell unfold. Charles Taylor, a former Doe ally turned foe, launched the first Liberian Civil War in December 1989. His NPFL rebels torching villages and conscripting children. Ellen, ever the strategist, co-founded the National Patriotic Front with Taylor, funneling funds from her U.S. networks. It was a desperate alliance, she admitted years later, her voice cracking in interviews. "I thought he was the devil we needed to oust Doe. How wrong I was." Doe fell in 1990, gruesomely disemboweled on video for the world to see. But Taylor's liberation birthed atrocities, massacres, amputations, a diaspora of 1.2 million souls. Ellen broke ranks by 1996, denouncing him from exile as ECOWA's peacekeepers airlifted her to safety. The war dragged to 1997. Taylor won the rigged election with 75%. Ellen's Unity Party bid netting just 10%. She fled once more, vowing this isn't over. Fast forward to the 90s, Liberia as a bonfire of bones. Taylor's rule was a masquerade, smuggling diamonds for guns, his radio waves spewing hate like venom. The Second Civil War ignited in 1999, rebels from Lourdes and Model clawing at his throne, displacing half the population. Monrovia became a siege city, shells whistling like banshees, children soldiers with AKs bigger than their dreams, famine gnawing at bellies. Ellen watched from afar, her heart a war zone of its own. "Every night I dream of home, not the glory, but the graves," she shared in a 2009 NPR chat, her faith her flickering lantern. Raised Presbyterian, she'd embraced Methodism through James. Now, in exile's void, prayer became plot. "God doesn't abandon the broken," she'd murmur, drawing from Psalms like ammunition. By 2003, Taylor's empire crumbled. Indicted for war crimes, he slunk to Nigeria's asylum, then The Hague's dock. Enter the Acropeace Accords, a transitional government under Giad Bryant, with Ellen as Governance Reform Commission chair. Back in Monrovia at last, she audited the ashes, $4.9 billion in debt, infrastructure in ruins, 250,000 dead. "We weren't rebuilding," she said, eyes steel. "We were resurrecting." Eyewitnesses from those days, UN envoys like Tuliamini, Kaloma, recall Ellen at endless tables, her Harvard charts mapping peace like a cartographer of hope. Women, sidelined in the carnage, found a champion in her. Lama Gbowe's peace strikes, sex strikes even, pressuring fighters to lay down arms. Ellen amplified them, her voice a bridge from battlefield to ballot box. "If men bring war, women bring peace, she'd quip, planting seeds for her Nobel destiny. October 2005. Elections crackle like dry lightning. Soccer star George Weah, the people's champ, surges with 28%. Ellen, 67, and battle-scarred, ekes 19%. A respectable second, but the runoff looms like a duel at high noon. Weah's youth versus Ellen's wisdom. Street cred versus statesmanship. Can a grandma lead warriors? Skeptics sneered. Ellen fired back on the trail. I've buried more than you've buried, and risen every time. The campaign was visceral. Ellen trekking rural paths in gel head wraps, sharing rice with villagers, her stories of prison-weaving suspense like a griot's tale. I know hunger's bite, she'd say, voice dropping low. I know chains, but I also know keys. We alleged fraud, riots flared. Ellen stayed steady. Her sons, now men, one a banker, another an activist, rallying at her side. November 8, 59% to 40% victory. Africa's first elected female head of state. January 16, 2006. Inauguration Day. Monrovia swells 80,000 souls under a sky heavy with promise. Ellen, in white suit and iron necklace, swears the oath. I do solemnly swear, her Bible, a family heirloom, scarred like her soul. Today, we heal, she declares, tears glinting, but whispers linger. Taylor's ghost, corruption's roots. Could she prune them without bleeding the tree dry? Presidency dawned with a bang, or rather, a gavel on luxury. Liberia's coffers, emptier than a warlord's promise. Ellen's first move, symbolic surgery. 40 gleaming Mercedes, government perks for fat cat officials, went under the hammer. Proceeds funneled straight to the treasury, like water to parched fields. The presidential plane. It's been auctioned off, cutting ties to excess. No more flying high on borrowed wings, she quipped to aides, her laugh a defiant spark, and her salary slashed to the average Liberians, about $1,200 monthly. Then, while ministers lost bonuses, diplomats shed perks, and useless embassies shuttered abroad. Meetings, no champagne, flutes clinking, just tea and resolve. Travels, economy class, elbow to elbow, with citizens who'd bought their tickets with sweat. Eyewitnesses in her cabinet, like Finance Minister Antoinette Saya. Recall the vibe. Ellen led by example. Her home a command post after a mansion fire she refused to lavish fix. It was austere, but electric. Like we were all in the foxhole together. Broader reforms roared in. Zero tolerance corruption squad. The Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission, sniffing out graft like hounds. She restructured the General Auditing Commission, sacking thieves left and right. Information Minister Lawrence Bropla in 2008 for pocketing funds. Even her brother, Internal Affairs Minister Ellen Johnson in 2010 over missing millions. By November 2010, the whole cabinet dissolved for a clean slate. 7 ministers out, fresh blood, in debt. The Hydra's head. $4.9 billion strangled the nation in 2006. Ellen charmed the world. U.S. waived $391 million in 2007. G8 erased $324.5 million IMF arrears. A $1.2 billion buyback at 97% discount in 2009. Full HIPC MDRI relief by 2010, $4.6 billion gone. We don't borrow to breathe, she told the World Bank, firm as iron, only to build. Caps at 3% GDP for loans, funneled to roads, schools. education. Free and compulsory for kids by 2007 executive order. Her Independence Day gift after 25-year-old activist Kimmy Weeks orated fire. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Her moral gauntlet, formed in 2005. It dug graves of the past, recommending a 30-year ban on her for early Taylor ties. Ellen faced it head-on, July 26, 2009, apology tour. I was blind to his evil, she said, voice steady but eyes stormy. But I see now, and I'll atone with action. Supreme Court struck the ban in 2011. She won re-election with 90.7%. Freedom of Information Act, 2010. West Africa's first, earning her media hero status. Women, half her cabinet. Gender ministry born. If Liberia rises, it's on our backs. She'd rally, echoing Lama's streets. But power's price. Family fractures. Sons in scandals. Charles charged in 2019 for currency sabotage. Stepson Famba in 2014 fund probes, forcing Justice Minister Tet's exit. Leadership tests your blood first. Ellen sighed in private. Parades whispers. Re-election in 2011 brought highs and a Nobel thunderbolt. October 7th, shared Peace Prize with Lama Gbowie and Tawakkol Carmen for women's peace building. We struck for peace when bullets flew. Ellen beamed in Oslo, December 2011. Her lecture, a love letter to Liberia's unsung sisters. Critics cried foul, election meddling, but she waved it off. Coincidence, perhaps destiny. Absolutely. Then, 2014, Ebola, the invisible invader. Liberia ground zero, 10,000 cases, 4,800 dead, bodies piled in streets. Fear a thicker fog than Monrovia's Harmattan. Ellen declared emergency, August 2014. Borders sealed, quarantines ironclad, national incident system birthed. This is war without guns, she told her team, voice cracking as she toured isolation wards in hazmat gear, hugging nurses through plastic. Public distrust boiled rumors of government poison. Protests rocked Monrovia. West Point slum raised in panic. Ellen begged the world. U.S. troops built centers. Unmir, her brainchild, mobilized. I saw mothers bury children alone, she recounted in 2015. Tears real. It broke me, but mended my mission. By 2016, Liberia declared Ebola-free, GDP ticking up 2.7% yearly under her watch. Yet shadows lingered. 2017, term limit looms. She backs WIA, expelled from Unity Party, handover smooth, but echoes of her bans, TRC ghosts, haunt. Did I do enough? She'd ponder in quiet evenings, per memoir hints. Warriors, as the story of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf draws to a close. Let's etch the takeaways. She inherited ashes and built bridges. From $4.9 billion debt to zero. From child soldiers to compulsory classrooms. From silence to a voice for Africa's women that rings from Oslo to Addis. The Iron Lady didn't just save Liberia. She schooled the world that true power bends toward the broken, not the bank accounts. Her legacy, the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Presidential Center, empowering girls since 2018, who ambassadorships, ICAWA's chair in 2016, the first woman. But mysteries linger, don't they? What if Elon's early Taylor Pact had tipped differently? Could war have ended sooner? Or, bolder, in a world of strong men, could her austerity blueprint heal nations like debt-choked Zambia today? Was faith her secret alloy, tempering iron into legend? Chew on that. What hits you hardest about Elon's fight, the slashed salary, the Ebola stand, or her unbreakable rise? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one. If this fired up your history heart, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We're your co-conspirators in uncovering the past's power. Until next time, keep questioning, keep rising. Peace out.